Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I am Tina Jha, you're watching Perspective. On the show today, we are going to talk about the burden of obesity, an issue which Prime Minister Narendra Modi sought to draw focus on through his recent Man Ki Baat radio program. Citing data, the Prime Minister said 1 in every 8 people today is troubled by the problem of obesity. Cases of obesity have doubled in the past few years, but what is even more worrying is that the problem of obesity has increased fourfold even among the children. To spread awareness about what causes obesity, the kind of medical problems it can lead to, and how we can fight the obesity epidemic, the Prime Minister nominated eminent individuals from different fields as ambassadors, urging them to help address this key challenge that the country faces today. He also urged them to further nominate more people so as to expand the outreach and momentum of the anti-obesity drive. To better understand India's obesity challenge and how it can be addressed, I am pleased to welcome on the show two distinguished guests. With me in the studio is Dr. Sood, Chief Medical Officer, Vardhaman Mahavir Medical College and Safdarjung Hospital. Dr. Sood, welcome to Sansad TV. Thank you for your time. And joining us virtually is Dr. Manoj Nisari. He is Advisor Ayurved, Ministry of Ayush, Government of India. Thank you, Dr. Nisari, for your time. Welcome to Sansad TV. Dr. Sood, allow me to begin the program today with you. I was looking at the numbers and I was, quite worried with the fact that the burden of obesity is on the rise not just globally but in India. The WHO figures put it at adult obesity worldwide having more than doubled since 1990, adolescent obesity having quadrupled. Give us a perspective of how big is the burden of obesity in India?
WHO actually did raise these signals of the problem many years ago, and the last they brought out in 2021 a survey report which said that about around 200 crores out of the about 750 crore population of the world in crores, okay, so is overweight and obese. Out of this 200 out of 800, which was almost 1 in 4, about 65 crores or 70 crores were, this is worldwide, were actually obese. So first, I think we must really compliment the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi sir, Honorable the Prime Minister, because this is going to be the biggest health challenge the world has seen, right, because it leads to many diseases. So we may just move to a 5 trillion economy from 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so which we aim in the next few years. And if we move to 5 trillion economy and we are going to spend 2 trillion on healthcare costs, on diseases like cardiology, diabetes, cancers, and so many other issues, breathing problems, and we are going to be virtually in a mess. So this obesity drive is really required if India wants economic prosperity, so that the government doesn't have to build more hospitals for the health care of the people, and the focus goes on preventive medicine, prevention from obesity, and increase of physical activity, and diet play a huge role in this concept. And as far as India is concerned, India, there is a National Family Health Survey done in 19 to 21. There has almost been a 4% increase in overweight and obese people from 2015, a 4% increase in 5 years. We were almost about 18 to 22% for the women and 20 to 24% for men now, which was 4% less in 2015-2016 survey. So there is a big problem. About 8 crore Indians, out of maybe 140 are supposed to be overweight and obese, and this number really drastically increases in the higher age groups, and especially it is more in the urban areas.
Right. Let me take that question to Dr. Nisari and understand how it's affecting different age groups. You pointed out how it has major economic consequences as well. And if India has to become a Viksit Bharat, we have to ensure that it's a fit India that becomes a Viksit Bharat, because we don't want to end up spending a significant amount on our healthcare. Dr. Nisari, your perspective on how obesity today is impacting different age groups, particularly the kind of difference that you see in the society today and the impact of obesity on men and women and also children. This is one stark number that the Prime Minister has put forward. So give us and our viewers a sense of the impact that obesity today is having on the Indian society.
As you mentioned, that the obesity has not spared any of the age group. It is affecting the young children, it is affecting the adolescent children, it is affecting the young men and women, as well as it is also affecting the rural as well as the urban population. So the obesity is a big problem. It is across the community, it is across the states, it is across the religion, and it is across the economic status. So it is not sparing anyone, whether it is the relatively economically weaker section or even the economically stronger section. So it is affecting everyone. And because of the obesity, the overall the various disease burden, the non-communicable diseases, it is increasing very alarmingly. And if you consider diabetes is one of the major challenge, and all of us, we know that now India is a very high ratio of the diabetic people, especially the type 2 diabetes. And along with the diabetes, then there are various other issues like the target organ damage, whether they relate to kidney and cardiovascular diseases, the ophthalmic conditions. So all these conditions, they are increasing very alarmingly. So it is across the community and across the society. The important factor here, what actually is to be recognized is during this 2013, when the Food Security Act, it was implemented. The Food Security Act was passed and then it was implemented. So in last 10 years, after the food security is ensured, after that, instead of actually improving the quality of the status of the health, the obesity has increased, and these are the observations and the findings of that National Institute of Nutrition, which is the organization of the ICMR. So this way we have to address very forcibly and on a very high priority the obesity issue that we have to address.
Certainly. So how we are moving towards addressing this challenge is something that we'll come to a little later in the program, Dr. Sood. But let's first understand the root cause of the problem, some of the key factors which have led to this sudden increase in the problem that we are discussing today. And it's so serious that the Prime Minister of the country has to speak about it in his Mann Ki Baat program, and he has appointed people to spread awareness, because it's an epidemic we are facing, but not many people are talking about it and not many people are aware about the grave challenge that we face.
I'm practically telling you, I'm really thankful to the Prime Minister. He has taken up this issue of obesity in the 119th episode of Mann Ki Baat, and probably I wish it should have been taken up much earlier in his first term only. But because the issues are so many, but then this is one of the biggest challenges. Yeah. Now the question is why it is happening. See, there is a change in the total lifestyle. The world has changed, that things have become easier. It is easier to find food. Transportation systems are easier. Our work culture has become more of a sitting culture. Previously, we were working in the fields. We would walk for very long distances, and we would probably eat less because food was not available as easily. Unlike today, where all these apps, I would not name them, you can get a food. So I've seen people getting breakfast, lunch, dinner through these apps, especially in the metropolitans. Your work culture, I've been both to the US and Australia. The reason is physical activity is a big emphasis there, because there was a very big debate that 90-hour work culture. So question is, if I'm going to go for such long hours of working, I won't be able to pay attention to my physical activity. So whether it is schools, whether it is colleges, whether it is offices, or whether it is children in the house, they really need to put in more physical activity. And the mothers of the house, who have become probably security issues, we are more television focused, and the playgrounds are hardly exist, and in schools there are smaller playgrounds, nearby houses there are lesser parks to play. That physical activity decrease, food being easily available, and methodology of the work culture has changed, is causing a big change in this lifestyle. And I can really assure you, you're really sitting on a hydrogen bomb. It's going to be such a big problem that we probably will not be able to manage. We will not be able to build so many hospitals, neither be able to create wellness centers, and unless we really take charge of this, so decrease our food intake, the kind we'll come to the later on. Oil does play a major part, like which the Prime Minister has taken as the first initiative. See, the energy which you get, the macronutrients are basically carbohydrates, proteins and fats. So oil is a fat which gives you 9 kilocalorie per gram. So unlike protein and carbohydrate which give you 4 per gram. So if I decrease by 10%, previously oil consumption, which has been unofficially about 30 on an average, some people might be consuming 10 ml oil per day, some might be consuming 100 ml per oil, but on an average it has been calculated about 30 ml. So even if you reduce 10% and come down to 25 or 20 ml per person per day on an average in the country, you can decrease the oil consumption in the country. You can probably make a huge change because 9 calorie मेरी कम हो जाएंगी, 9 calories will decrease per gram. So if I decrease about maybe 10 grams, so it goes to 90 or 100 calories per day. 100 calories per day decrease means 5 kg weight reduction in a year. So my weight goes down, my personal household expenditure goes down. I can use that money for my children's education, maybe using better things for like we can use it for vegetables and fruits, which saves you from lot of diseases. So it's just, and the country saves a lot of revenue. You have to import less oil, and it doesn't make sense to import so much oil. We approximately, I think, import about 260 lakh tons of oil. So even if you decrease by 10%, which will amount to 225, or we can bring it to 200 lakh tons per year, you can just see the national savings, which can be much better used for everybody.
So it's going to be beneficial for us individually, but of course also for the government's
and for the country
as a country. You're right. Someone rightly said prevention is better than cure. So we will never be able to build as many hospitals looking at our population to cure the kind of diseases that obesity is leading to. But if we change our lifestyle, if we adhere to some of the things that our doctors, our panelists are mentioning, we will be able to bring about a lot of change. Coming back to Dr. Nisari on the kind of habits, good habits I should say, that we should adapt to. One is reducing oil consumption, but the other aspect and the major driving force behind this sudden increase in cases of obesity has been easy access to the kind of food which was earlier not available. I remember our previous generations speaking about how food habits are usually guided by the surroundings that you live in. Not anymore, because technology, globalization have played a major role in easy access to things that we need at our doorstep. But that is something that we can't overturn. But how can we ensure that we are eating the right food, which is healthy for our body? And if you could name some regular foods which are easily available in our country, or which we can consume on a daily basis?
It is a complex subject, and it is not linked to any one particular item. So definitely oil is one of the important issue in the obesity, but it is not just the oil. And it is not just the calorie what actually we count. There are various factors. Say for example, how much we eat, what the quantity, how many times we eat. So it is not necessary that we eat a good quantity of the food, but if we are eating small quantity of food frequently, so that also adds to the obesity. So how much we eat, which way we eat, what kind of food it is. So these various factors are there. Say for example, if we eat only rice or if we eat only wheat, then again it is going to cause the obesity. But if our diet is balanced, say for example, if we also take vegetables along with the rice and maybe some ghee and the dal, and those who are the non-vegetarian, they also take the non-veg, but in a balance and in a balanced quantity. So that would be definitely useful for their overall improving the health. But if they are eating on a one item or on a very large quantity, or they are eating frequently, so that is again a cause of the obesity. Right. When we talk about the calories, so the calories is not actually the measurement, because the same kind of calorie you can get in 1 teaspoon of the sugar, the same calorie you can get from a bowl of the rice, the same quantity with the quantity of the calorie you can get with a glass of beer. But now here, when we talk about the nutrition, the rice and the vegetables and the sugar and the beer, they can't be equated. So it is not just the calories. So it is various factors which are responsible. And this actually Ayurveda has defined in the various 8 factors of the nutrition and the eating habits. So these 8 factors, they are very important. So what to eat, in which season to eat. So seasonal variation has to be there.
Right.
Then according to your age, your diet should be there. So because usually in the growing age, you require a lot of food, you require a lot of energy. That's why the growing children, they eat quite a lot. But when you are having a sedentary lifestyle, so during that time, the requirement is less. So how much activity you do, so that is also very important. So these are the various factors which are important when we are talking about the obesity, and we have to take measures on every these items. Say for example, there is one simple rule that if you eat something, then don't eat at least for next 6 hours after eating one portion of your whatever you have eaten. So there should be a minimum gap of 6 hours. So if we follow this principle of maintaining the 6 hours gap, automatically the overall whatever the diet we take, probably it will be only 3 times, maybe once in the morning and then lunch and at the dinner. So this will automatically cut down your intake. At the same time, you won't feel the hungry because you have taken the sumptuous quantity of it. So this is one principle, and likewise there are different principles for how to eat and what not to eat.
Okay, Dr. Sood, that leads me to a question on, and this is from a mother's perspective. The question is, each healthy food. It's difficult to make it interesting to the children of today because what is available to them, easily available to them in the market is very exciting, and of course they would prefer to eat that as compared to the home cooked food. The question is how to make the whole grains or the kind of things which will be healthier for them, to make them exciting and lovable to the youngsters of today because they have access to everything at the doorstep.
See, that's a very interesting question, a major cause for obesity. If you look all over the place, whether in Delhi or outside, I've seen it in Himachal, Kerala, Karnataka, everywhere. The hottest selling foods are the noodles and these momos. The question is, the question is, you are living in a world of fast food where huge, through advertisements, a lot of industry is pushing those foods.
Right.
Which are unhealthy for you, but unfortunately they seem to make them tasty with whatever methodology they use them, whether they use some of the spices or they make them more exciting and something different from your household food. So that is one of the biggest challenges for the mothers of today. So the basic thing, another thing what you have to look for is the food should be hygienic enough. So the mothers also have to change with the times, with the trends. So if we come across a lot of young children, children who have to start eating food, 3 or 4 class or 5 class. So at times you are actually, they are not aware of what they are eating. Your mind should be realizing what you are eating, which is called mind-body medicine. So you got a mobile phone in your hand and you are chewing food. So you will end up eating double or triple the food what you should be eating.
Right.
And what you specifically asked for, the mothers. The mothers also have those taste buds. Many times they are not aware of what the right nutrition is, unfortunately. So these topics of nutrition should be taught in the schools, because not everybody goes into medicine or goes as a nutrition specialist. I'm also a nutrition expert, but then this is the biggest challenge in pediatrics also. A lot of children, they fall ill, they want to have Maggie. The mother wants to give them healthier food, they don't want it. So that is good for a change. So you can put in more vegetables into it, you can put in an egg into it, you can put in some paneer or cheese into it. So make it more interesting. Look at what the child also wants. Don't push so much. He'll develop revulsion for that food and it would just harm your interest and your child's interest. So teach them healthy habits. And another big thing is the culture, what we are going through. What I've seen in some of the developed countries, the culture for physical activity is so much. The schools have playgrounds, The children, that is why they do very well in many of the sports events. That is one of the, but here education is such a big event, that is probably the way most of the parents feel route to a good life, and they push too much education on the children, and physical activity gets left out, and plus the food what you have asked, and first the mothers should know what the right nutrition is, and then that nutrition has to be made more interesting.
Okay, Dr. Nesari, what are your views on raising awareness, A, about the kind of food that is to be consumed, B, about what's available in India, how do we make it interesting? And I ask it especially in context of children and adolescents, because they're being impacted more by the kind of lifestyle and the kind of foods easily available to them. And the third is about the right nutritional value. What are we doing as policymakers to ensure that we have the right strategy in place to deal with all of these issues?
Answer this question, I will narrate an experience with you. Our team had undertaken a survey in different parts of the country, and so we visited the remotest part in Karnataka, in Belgaum district. And that particular hamlet, it was very remote. Even there, the mobile signal, it was not available. It was not a motorable road. So that remote actually it was. But to my surprise, the children, they were very, very healthy. There was no obesity, and their hemoglobin levels were very good. And when we asked them then what they eat and what kind of shops they have there in the near vicinity, they had no any shop. They were eating the standard ragi roti. Ragi is the fox millet which is used in Karnataka. So they are using that millet as a routine item for the food, whether it is for the breakfast, whether it is for the lunch. They also used to get in their Anganwadi and in their the midday meal as well, the same kind of food, but they were very healthy. At the same time, when we went to the other villages and when we are the various habits of the children over there, so many children, they were habituated to the biscuits and the noodles and all such kind of various items. And there we found the obesity over there, the hemoglobin percentage was low. So here actually you can see the difference what actually we eat. According to that, the overall status of the health is there. So the refined the wheat, so that is one of the main culprit. The overuse of wheat is another actually the impeding factor. It is there. So we have to cut down the refined wheat as well as the overuse of wheat, because in our food mostly, whether it is bread, whether it is chapati, whether it is biscuits, whether it is semolina, whether it is noodles, in various forms we are using wheat and wheat and wheat. And probably if we see our ancestors, maybe some 50 years back, the wheat was not so common. In different parts of the country, rice is a staple food, and rice also, the red rice, so that is being used very commonly. And the method of preparation of rice is very unique in entire country, that they first of all, they actually boil the rice, they strain, and they don't put the lid on that while cooking the rice, and the entire water is strained out, and then that rice is used for the eating. On the contrary, nowadays we are using the pressure cookers, and the rice is used in the pressure cooker. There are a lot of studies in this, that how the glycemic index is reduced when you cook the rice in the open vessel, and when you strain the rice, and when you strain the entire water, and how when you put it in the pressure cooker, how actually the rice, actually the glycemic index is very high. So whatever the traditional methods and the traditional food which was being used in the different part of country, so that is the most healthy one. And I would say that obviously from the Ministry of Ayush, we have taken various initiatives to promote the traditional food, whether it is related to vegetables, whether it is related to your staple food, whether it is related to the various other food items. So that is very, very important. And the food which is appropriate to your geoclimatic conditions, because the geoclimatic conditions in Punjab, they are different. The geoclimatic conditions in Kerala are different.
Absolutely.
So the same formula cannot be made applicable to Kerala also, to Manipur also, and to Punjab also. It has to be different according to their geoclimatic conditions as well as their ethnicity also. Because ethnicity also plays a great role in the overall problem. And that's why we actually focused on how actually we can promote the traditional food of the geographic location. Say for example, if it is the southern India, the idli and the sambar and the rasam, and it is really good for them. If it is Rajasthan, their traditional food is good for them, and if you go for the Punjab, their traditional food is good for them.
Right.
And this is the right formula, and this is the policy that the government has to adopt, and that's what we are actually promoting from the minister.
Certainly. So, various initiatives being undertaken at the government level in how we can combat this escalating crisis, Dr. Sood, but at the community level, because this is something where the individuals, families and communities will have to spread awareness about the problem that we are talking about, and the momentum of this drive, something that the Prime Minister stressed upon, that we have to ensure that it's not limited to the studio or to the conversation in a group. We have to ensure that every person knows what we are talking about, knows the gravity of this challenge and knows how to deal with this.
Yes, so that's a very important. First of all of us must understand that India, world and our rural belt was very different 100 years ago and today. I'll give you an example. There was a concept of feeding the woman after a delivery with lot of oils, but they would feed the children, as our ancestors say, with lot of butter and other dairy products. Now the problem is the kind of physical activity. During those times, a man would walk about 20 kilometers, 15 kilometers a day. He would work in the fields. So his food requirement was totally different. Now most of the people are either sitting in the offices, even in the rural belt, many of the things the machines are doing, a tractor is doing some work, and there are so many threshers doing that work which a man would do with his hands. So there is a huge change in lifestyle, in physical activity. So a change of the food pattern is required. You cannot eat. My grandfather used to have 5 kg of ghee, whatever ghee, in his house at that time, but my requirement has gone down by about say 75%. So if I'm going to have the same diet what my grand or great grandfather was having, I'm going to be obese and overweight. There is no doubt about it.
So of course we understood from this discussion that we've had that there's a complete shift in the kind of diet from the earlier days.
My diet cannot be for the previous lifestyle.
So in this sedentary lifestyle, what is the kind of exercise regime that one should follow? So how many hours or how many minutes of exercise would you recommend for an average person to ensure that we are not obese, we don't cross that line, and also we are healthy, because that's more important.
See, one of the recommended, ideally 1 hour every day for everybody, but often we are constrained with time. So at least for children, 1 hour daily is a must.
Okay.
For children. Now the question is, where is the park? So we have to get those parks developed where he can go and do hard physical activity. And even for adults, it is recommended about 150 minutes per week. But that is the basic physical activity. Ideally, it should be about 45 minutes to 1 hour brisk walk, if that is what you're looking for. But again, then there is a whole big scenario change which we require. We require first to create a culture that I see you running, so I also feel like running. I was in a country, I was in Australia, and there, frankly telling you, I saw virtually there were 2 nannies going on a speed on a bike like teenagers. I'm just giving you an example.
But these are little changes that we have to adopt.
Yes, we have to incorporate in our lifestyle.
You're right. We have to ensure that we get back to things that our ancestors were perhaps doing, in the way they were eating, in the way they were...
Another big problem which I would like to point out here, for reason for obesity. See, most of the food, I'll give you, you go all over, at least in the city of Delhi, we are having those contract jobs. People are working from 8 to 8. They don't have time for breakfast in the house. Now, breakfast should be fruits and some healthier variety, like said, we could have millets or one of those poha, dalia, anything. But now I think what I have observed in the city of Delhi, especially in the low income colonies, the biggest breakfast is either a vada in the morning or a kachori in the morning, and they are sitting with those tea, but they are cheap. So cheap, and the vegetables and fruits are very expensive. So that shift is also required. We need to produce more fruits and vegetables in bulk. We need to create that culture. We may need to make them cheaper for the common man so that their consumption increases. Right now the cheapest food is to have probably a kachori on the street.
But having that being said, despite the ifs and buts, we have to ensure that we have to find time for ourselves, eat right, work right, in the sense that, you know, the physical activity aspect, something that Dr. Sood pointed out, is something that we have to also get back to despite our hectic work schedules. And these are little changes that will make a lot of difference in our lifestyles. Time allows me to take up only that much on the program today. Thank you once again, Dr. Nesari, Dr. Sood, for your valuable time talking to us and our viewers about these important and significant changes that we can bring about in our lifestyles in order to ensure that we are healthy and we are able to contribute towards a Viksit Bharat, which is a dream that all of us have collectively envisioned for 2047. So with that, I'll have to call it a wrap. Thank you once again to you viewers as well for your time.
संसद टीवी के और भी प्रोग्राम्स देखने के लिए सब्सक्राइब करें हमारा YouTube चैनल और हाँ, इन्हें लाइक और शेयर करना ना भूलें।